I've always felt like I've been climbing a staircase, and whenever I got to the top, I fell back down to the bottom. And when I looked at the staircase, it had doubled in size. But I kept climbing, and I kept falling. It was like I was in a sailboat that kept capsizing. And I think that no matter how experienced of a captain you are, sometimes you're at the mercy of the sea. I've been with the New York City Ballet for 17 years, and my path has not been an easy one. Injuries, heartbreak, illnesses are no strangers to me. And when I try to understand how I could keep climbing that staircase, what allowed me to do it, I think really the only answer is love. I love what I do so much. And when I was at a low point, I started to pay attention to what other people love, people that had nothing to do with my life. And I realized that everybody around me was involved in their own struggles, and the more I invested in those, the weight of mine seemed lighter. And I think it's important to do that, to share what you love, to share the struggle with it, to invest in other people's struggles. Because if you don't, you put a limit on love, and you put a limit on its ability to heal us all and to allow us to overcome things personally and as a community.
Megan, do please grab a seat. Well, it's wonderful to be joined on stage by Megan LeCrone. As you would have heard from Cheech's introduction, Megan is a soloist at the New York City Ballet and also an attender here at Redeemer Downtown and a friend. Megan, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed.
Thank you.
Look, I mean, I guess as a starting point, it would be fascinating just to hear a bit more about how you got into ballet. Was it always something you wanted to do? Yeah, what was the path?
It's been a part of my life for a long time. I grew up in North Carolina. My dad worked in sports administration, so my family was pretty active. My mom, there were three of us, three girls, and it was really important for my mom for us to have a good arts education, because at that time in the school system and in the community, there was just a very, very small one, and we weren't getting that at school. So it was important for us to sort of have that, and we started out at church singing in the choir and taking piano lessons from the organist there, and then we enrolled in ballet school. And I remember she told me when I started my career, she said, you know, you guys every year at the end of the year said, oh, do we have to do ballet again? And she said, why don't you try one more year? And if you feel that way at the end of the year, you can stop. So she said that every year.
And you never stopped.
And I never stopped, exactly.
And what is it that you particularly, I suppose, what was it that got you about ballet that meant that you kept going back year on year?
I just loved it. I really, like I say in the film, I think when I got to middle school and high school, you know, and that's a huge transition time for a young girl. All these things are happening, and you get insecure, and the social aspects change. And I just felt like it was the only place I could be myself, and I liked it because I didn't have to talk, and I didn't have to really engage with anybody else except for myself and the music and following just the directions of the teacher. So I liked the discipline of it. And then later on, when I realized once you learn that discipline, what you can do with it, you have an incredible amount of freedom with expressing your own self in the steps, doing the choreography, which is very different from an actual codified class. I just knew that it was what I wanted to do with most of my time.
Wonderful. Well, look, we're grateful you're talking with us this morning and giving us a bit of an insight into it. In the wider service, we're thinking about how can we be truly happy this morning. And I guess one of the things is when someone reaches the kind of top of the tree to some extent, like you are, then everyone looks from the outside looking in and says, well, Megan must surely be happy. I mean, she's New York City ballerina. She's made it. What's not to like about that? But what's the lived reality of that actually like?
It's not always happy. And I say that before I'm gonna speak about the happy parts of it, because I think it's important what I've learned in my journey that it's okay for things to not be going okay, and that doesn't mean that that is the entire definition of your situation or of your life. For me personally, it was really raw and real. There were lots of injuries, lots of just constant trials I had. And then there's the difficulty of comparing yourself to the other dancers, to the dancers in my company around the world, and not feeling like, you know, I'm enough based on their success. And just the schedule in itself is difficult. It's very isolating. You know, my work day is Tuesday through Sunday from 10 in the morning until 10 at night. On Sundays, luckily, we get finished around 4 or 5, so I can get to the evening service. But it's lonely. It's lonely sometimes. But I think what I speak about in the film. What helps me pull myself out of that when there are hard times is to invest, to listen to other people, to invest. This doing service, like in the church, really helped me. Serving others, because it just helps me to stop focusing on my stuff. And we all have our stuff, and we'll all have our stuff, I think, for the rest of our lives, new stuff that we're dealing with. But if I'm with somebody else and helping them and walking with them through their stuff and carrying the weight for them a little bit, like I said, I go back to mine and I'm like, oh, this is lighter. Or someone else comes into my life to make it lighter. And I think that through connecting in suffering, which like is messy and scary and we don't always want to do, you really figure out what real joy is and real happiness. And in the midst of, you know, these things that are temporary, our jobs are where we seek our validation from, we get a sense of what eternal happiness and joy is like. And it gives us a real hope of what we have to look forward to, and to readjust our relationships with our jobs, for example, or our talents. Yeah.
Thank you for being open about that and sharing that with us. I think it's wonderful to see not only the beauty of what you do, but also understand a bit about the work that goes in behind that. Lastly, and maybe just exploring that a little bit more, you know, you're a Christian, and you talked about having that kind of bigger perspective. How does your faith in Jesus Christ help you to kind of do that and stay grounded, particularly maybe when things are really tough?
It has helped me immensely. I didn't come to, even though I was raised in a home that went to church, I didn't really understand the truth of the gospel, understand the theology of it, and I would say come to faith until my late 20s. And thank God for Redeemer, I was able to go through that here. And I thought, well, in the beginning, I was like, gosh, all these things are changing and my life is moving forward, and I got promoted to soloist, and I was like, gosh, like finally, you know, it's just like gonna be smooth sailing. And then all of these things started going wrong. The relationship I was in ended. I had to move out of my apartment. I broke my neck. Like, it was just one thing after another. And then there was the pandemic. And I was like, what is God doing? Like, what are you doing? And all these other people they have a few problems, but not as many as me. And I was like, I don't get it. And I think it's in one of C.S. Lewis's books, he says, you know, it's like I felt like my house was being broken down, like my foundation. And he says, God says to us, he comes in and does a few little repairs in your life, and they're a little painful, but you can handle them. And then, like, the walls start coming down, the roof is pulled off, the rug is just pulled out from under you, and you're like, what is happening? And it's so scary. And you're like, why are you tearing my house down, God? I'm devoting my life to you, or trying to. And he says, I'm not tearing your house down. I'm doing a giant renovation so I can build a mansion for you.
Lovely.
Which, believing that and trusting in that is hard, but I don't know how I would have gotten through some of the things I've gotten through without, you know, his work in me, my faith, the community I have here. And when I move forward, you know, because sometimes I don't always want to rely on him for things. I'm like, I can get through it myself. I'm like, always brought back.
Megan, thank you very much for sharing that with us. And we're going to hand back to Cheech now, but we're really grateful for your time with us. Can we please give Megan a round of applause?
Thank you.